then you need to be quite suspicious of that person, because no one is all good or all bad. Or perhaps more people are more towards the bad side, so we need to avoid them. And other people are good, but no one is perfect. So if if you see someone who's trying to be perfect and trying to act perfect, you know that they probably putting on a facade. So here we are back to human relations again. Um, so when you're making a decision, I'm going to come back to my topic of manipulation, I'm afraid, because the thing is, if you can't make a decision, someone else is bound to make it for you. And um, and then you go through life thinking it was your decision, but meanwhile, someone's actually talked you into everything. So that's why discernment is very, very important. And also, when you assessing a complex situation or a main life decision, or even a smaller decision, start with your smaller decisions first, and then maybe you'll be better at making bigger decisions after that. For example, if you at the supermarket and you are trying to decide between one type of cheese and another type of cheese, why do you sit and say, oh, should I do this and should I do that, and think of all you see, this is where having too much of a nuanced thinking and too much of you also need to have a balance with that. Because if you kind of a detailed thinker, you're going to think, oh, these are all the benefits of this, these are all the benefits of that, and you will spend hours there. So it is due to experience. So sometimes you need to experience things before you know what you like. So I think if you are younger, or if you are in a place where you haven't had much experience, even if you're older, like in an environment, or in like an environment. Let's say you are, let's say you're deciding to take a new course, and you don't know what subjects to take in the course. Sometimes it's trial and error. If you've got a choice of subjects to take, say in your degree, it's trial and error. What's going to sit with you, unless you know what you actually already like. So sometimes some of us, when we go into careers, we're not all fortunate enough to really decide exactly what we want. Sometimes we find that we chose the wrong career, and we've got to change our study, our topic of study, and change a lot of things about what we're learning before we actually find the one that's right for us. And also, based on your previous experience, you can build on that, and then it's easier to make decisions. Okay. Yeah. So when I think of black and white thinking, a lot of people will try and put black and white thinking on you, because, well, not a lot of people, but certain types of people will try and put black and white thinking on you. So, oh, that's very bad, or that's very good, or that's very, or that's negative, or that's positive. It's like the toxic positivity movement. Oh, you dare not feel a negative feeling, or express a bit of sadness, anger, anything, because that's bad. You are negative. You're totally negative, and I want nothing to do with you. I really don't subscribe to that kind of thinking. It's also, while we're talking about it, black and white people are afraid to show their emotions, because the emotions lie in the spectrum in between. And that's where the splashes of color come, because if you a person who can feel emotions deeply, you can actually feel joy. You know where you can find your joy, your genuine joy, not toxic positivity. Oh, I'm always so happy, and been through that as well. So you can see I'm not a fan of it. Okay, so yeah, so we get back to intuition again. You need to trust your gut feeling, and also, like, is very topical at the moment, people talking about how your nervous system feels. That's true. If you feel any kind of discomfort about something, there's something there. If you feel hesitant, if you procrastinate about something, if you feel confusion about something, look at it closer. Those are the areas in between that you need to examine. All the splashes of color are not always very pleasant. Let's maybe call them shades of gray. Yeah, I think the title of that book kind of ruined it for me. 50 Shades of Grey. In fact, 50 Shades of Grey was where a woman was rather in an abusive situation. But anyway, yeah, but people like the black or the white. So uh, the splashes of color, for example, we have been in a suburb which did not have water for about 3 weeks. Okay, so people, I know it was very more difficult for people who have small children and people with families and all that. And we, at least we had a place where we could go and fetch the water, but it was very challenging for everyone. So, but also in this area, there are the most beautiful flowers, which I use on my shorts all the time, because I really notice them. So if you can notice the nuances of life, not just, oh, we got no water, this is the end of the world, and we're not going to ever survive this. Um, it's part of resilience. I actually wrote a book called The Rainbow of Resilience. Now, that that is where the colors come in. You know, really. Um, if you see colors in between, you have a much more colorful life. You have a much more joy-filled life. If you're a black and white person, oh, it's all this, what's all that? It's quite difficult to really have a proper discernment because you're not even looking at the areas in between. You don't want to look, and it's amazing how many people don't actually want to look at the areas in between. They'd rather just call something what they think it is without actually examining all the little details in between, the nuances, the uh, you know, sometimes like we over examine if we people that are like that, because I know I'm like that. I'm kind of too open. But you need, that's also discernment. You know, you need to know when to stop, where to draw the line, where to make your decision, where to think, okay, now this is enough information. And then when you take that information, how do you feel about that information? You know, and do I, which of this information do I agree with when you are looking, you're doing your due diligence on you know, on a topic which you don't know about. You're actually looking at the good side and the bad side and all areas of it, and what a number of people have to say about this. Now, as an INFJ, I'm not very good at this because it's extroverted thinking, where you're actually looking at everyone else's opinion or everyone else's and doing a lot of research in the outside world and what has happened and how is this done. But this is very important, and we also need to know what skills we need to develop in order to develop our discernment a bit more. Um, so definitely with the research, I would take, you know, I've got introverted thinking, so I kind of internalize everything. I don't really look out in the outside world and see, but you need a balance of both. You actually need a balance of both because you need to know what you think. What do you think about what's going on in the world? You know, you need to form your own impressions of it. Um, okay, so discernment. And discernment, I've spoken about also knowledge about basic things which are important in life, like to know about people and to know about certain circumstances that you might find yourself in safety. Um, but also when you get into a situation like there's no water, you know, Some people would panic, oh, there's no water in the taps. But eventually you do find a way through that. And whatever situation that you're getting into, you find your way through being in that situation. Sometimes it's in the situation you develop the discernment. And yes, so okay, what else have I got to say about that? It's also another thing we also hear very much is about setting boundaries. Okay, so do you know what boundaries you have and which lines you won't cross or you won't let people cross? Uh, and you know how to define those lines, because the boundaries can become very blurry. The lines can become very blurry if you are not careful. So that's in line with your values. So if you have a value, you need to know, you need to maybe write down a few points about what you're going to do if that value of yours is threatened, if it's that important to you. That's why we prioritize our values, because some of them might not be important when it actually comes down to it. Uh, maybe we say things that people like to hear, good values, but our values are not, they're not acceptable to the, the public or other human beings, but we're just saying that we want that. So we really need to know what we feel deep inside. Uh, and I know for some of you, you'll say, of course we know. And I know that some of the population don't struggle so much with this. They know exactly who they are and what they want, and you're very fortunate. Um, but then we all have other areas to develop. So that may be your strength, but there are other areas that some of us also grasp a bit better. So in that way, we need to understand other people, because if we're a person who is very sort of into our own, and I'm going to call this function now introverted feeling, okay? Because introverted feelers know who they are, but do they really understand other people, and do they really um, are they able to see the bigger picture other than what they actually personally want? So that's the other aspect of it. There's so many, again, there are a lot of nuances to this. Right. Oh. So I just want to summarize what I've said. Okay, the ability to judge, that is what discernment is. And sometimes when those boundaries of ours are weakened, whether it be by manipulation, by unclear boundaries within ourselves, then we lose the ability to judge. We lose our discernment. And discernment is a key area in individuation, in gaining your own personal agency. And uh, and really, when we're looking at discernment, we need to look into ourselves rather than what other people are telling us. How do I feel about this? We feel our nervous system or our gut telling us something, or making us uncomfortable, feel confusion, we procrastinate, we hesitate about things. We need to look at that very carefully. Why are we doing that? And if someone is all black or all white, we need to recognize that, because if you are uh, made out to be a bad person by someone, that's their problem more than your problem, because they have this. Sometimes they even might have a mental illness where they uh, have this the notion of the bad object. So first of all, they may paint you as all good, but then when you when you lose something with them, or they kind of get a bit bored with you, then you're all bad. So you get people like that in the world, and you need to know where they are coming from, and that it's not you. You need to not take it personally. And that is also discernment. So discernment is always the ability to judge, and to judge well. And how it starts is with your values. And we can unpack some values if you come on the workshop, or you do some one-on-one coaching with me. You can unpack the values and decide what yours are, unless you are able to sit and do this program on your own, which is great if you can do that. So the program was called Standing, Standing, and I've got as far as the D now. So it was self-awareness, it was the timeline, it was aspirations, which involved time management as well, and then it was nature, human nature. Yeah, that was where we talked about the dark triad and the light triad and the ocean personality test. Okay, so this one was discernment, and I'm still getting used to doing a video, but yeah. Anyway, if you have any questions about discernment, perhaps you can put some comments. You can ask me some questions about it. Oh, okay. So I'm trying to discern what to say next, but I think I've said what I want to say. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. And if you don't want to miss the next video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you.